everyone. Once again, I'm JJ Dixon with the Jacksonville Brotherhood of Police Officers, and we are here with another round of conversations with some of our retired officers from the Sheriff's Office to talk about their time when they were with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Today we have retired Officer Jerry Thomas with us, and also retired officer, I don't think you ever gonna retire for real, but we'll just say today, retired Officer Willie Perry is here with us today. And we're here really with them to pick their brains about some of the proactive work that they used to do with the young people, the children, back in their time at the Sheriff's Office. And so specifically, one of the programs that they were responsible for was a program called Shoot Baskets, Not Brothers. So we'll get into talking about Shoot Baskets, Not Brothers here in a minute. But before we do that, I really would like to find out who Officer Jerry Thomas is.
Well, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Followed my brother down here, my older brother, to Jacksonville. I liked the beaches. And I came down, I was married, I had a kid, and wound up getting a job with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I started out as a correctional officer, was there for a couple of years, then I went to patrol. And I spent several years in patrol, the south side of Sherwood Forest, and I started out on the west side, which I couldn't stand. But anyway, eventually I wound up, Chief Spates, he recruited me and brought me to community affairs, and actually I went over to be working PAL, but that didn't work out because of the scheduling. And you want me to go on?
So you just stayed. How long did you stay with the Sheriff's Office?
Almost close to 40 years.
Wow. Well, congratulations on all of that. That's quite impressive.
Well, it was a roller coaster ride. But,
yeah,
you know,
of course. Of course. Well, there's only one person that I think that might be able to keep up with that, and that would be Officer Perry.
I'm homegrown.
Yes, sir.
Sandalwood, played ball at Fort A&M. I was a EOC officer for the Jacksonville city, and I decided to come over to the Sheriff Department. After the mayor wasn't going to run again, I had to get a job. So I came over and I met Jerry. Jerry and I played basketball. They used to call him Tree. And he used to, with the Sheriff Department. And we started hooking up. And I'm going a little quick.
No, you're good. You're good.
I see he had a good heart. Mm-hmm. And then we started meeting each other again at community affairs. And we had the same heart about children, about kids, especially bad ones.
Right.
He can remember what he went through, and I remember being a good kid. But we had that interest, and he's going to tell you about it, but I really followed Jerry in the program because he came and said what kind of help they needed and money.
Right.
You know, because we were going out of our own pocket before we got all this money that everybody said we got. But
they say we got.
We started something out of the heart, and we wanted to see the change because it was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting about
it was
that,
crazy.
you mentioned that with the way we met. You know, we met because we played City League ball.
That's right.
That's when we first met. Then we wound up working for the Sheriff's Department. We wound up being fair. And Perry was always, you know, laughing, joking, he liked messing with the kids and everything. But see, I can remember growing up in Philadelphia. I grew up in the hood. You know, the neighborhood I grew up in Philadelphia, the worst neighborhood here in Jacksonville, it would make it look like McDonald's Playhouse.
Wow.
And that's the truth. Gang war, drugs, everything else. When I came down here and got on patrol, I first started riding Sherwood Forest. Well, first when I got on the Sheriff's Department, I said, you know, maybe I can make a difference. Because I remember growing up in my neighborhood, the officers that came to my neighborhood, they were all tall white guys. They had the little caps on and the boots. And they always wore sunglasses. That's why I don't wear sunglasses today. They wore them, you couldn't see their eyes. Every time they came to the neighborhood, when they left, they had somebody in the back seat. And they were African American. So when I came down here and I started riding south of Sherwood Forest, I said, you know, this is the time where I could do something, give my people a break, if it's not too egregious. You know, if it's something I could give them a break or talk to them, and I would. And me and Perry hit it off because, you know, he was doing this thing, he was into the church and some of the stuff he was doing, so we just kind of networked together. And actually, if you want to get into how the program started,
Let me ask you, I got something for both of y'all before we go there, because y'all got my wheels turning now. I wanted to just comment on what you were just saying, that we have had several of the officers that have come through and done interviews, and they have all basically said what you just said. They wanted to be able to give the African-American community basically hope.
Right.
You know, you see an officer that looks like you and that can understand, you know, your plight sometimes, and they felt that they would be able to help their community as well as help others, but help their community out by becoming the police. And so we hear that a lot.
but you know, growing up, and I was just referring to the officers that in Philly, the way they come through. You know, as a young man growing up, and these guys come through, and you wave. They never smile. They never wave back. They always had somebody in the back. I said, you know, that stuck with me. Still stick with me today. And that's why when I came down here riding Sherwood Forest, I said, maybe I can make a difference. And then we got community affairs. I got with Jerome Spates, great guy. He got me involved with sickle cell, doing some stuff. We did the fundraiser basketball stuff, you know, with him. And, you know, just raise money for sickle cell.
And back then, I know officers would donate a lot of their time and their money. It was, you never had to beg somebody to volunteer or to donate time and money, because that just was a part of your, you know, your job. It was community service, community oriented, because you didn't just become a police because you wanted to have the authority. You became the police because you wanted to make a difference. And so nobody had to beg you to volunteer. For you, Officer Perry, I wanted to ask you, well, I wanted you to elaborate on this. You talked about the bad kids. And I know some people will say, we don't call kids bad, but we understand what you mean. You were with the sheriff's office for a long time, and you were the first school resource officer with the sheriff's office. And the majority of your years were spent with the quote unquote bad kids. So tell us I guess you could say what school you were at.
I started out at Northwestern. I was there for 1 year, and they had to send me to Butler because I did a good job at Northwestern. Like I said, the kids and I, we got along. So I went to Butler, and that was a whole different meal.
Back then, it really was.
And Jerry would come back when I was at Butler. Because, let me tell you, for Shoot Back to My Brother, we had another program, and that was done by Mrs. Teresa Hodge, who was the principal.
Okay.
We had another called Operation Turnaround.
Oh, I remember that program.
And it kind of helped with Shoot Baskets Not Brothers. Because some of the boys who were
We used a lot of their kids.
That's right. We used a lot of their kids.
Right.
And that's where it started. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I probably went to about 14 funerals out of those kids at Butler.
Back then.
Probably about 17 kids still in jail for crime they had done in the 90s, but they were doing some serious crime back then.
Right.
It was a challenge, but I knew I needed help. And I'm gonna tell you, he helped me at Butler. I mean, he'll come and we'll have faculty games. He'll do programs with Shoot Back to My Brother. Belford will feed them on Wednesday. He'll ride around with me. We almost got put in jail for that.
I was going to tell that story. Let me tell that story, because that is so. And Reverend McKissick, you know, because a lot of praise for
Senior, junior? Senior, okay.
Senior was president.
Okay.
Senior was a gold mine. And Perry had these kids, and a lot of the kids was, you know, wasn't doing good in their studies. And I guess because he go to Bethel and he talked to the pastor, and the pastor said, well, what can we do? And what was Miss Spates? She was one of the teachers or principal or something. They put together a group of teachers, African-American teachers, at his church, the tutor. And Reverend McKissick said, listen, you get the kids, we'll tutor them, and we'll feed them.
They even got the bus.
And he got the bus.
Wow.
And he did that on his time.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah. But the first time we did it, this was the funny part of the whole spill we get ready to tell you. We had about, 30, 40 kids? We loaded them up on the bus to go tutor, right? So Bobby Drummond was our sergeant at the time. So we went to the church, McKissick fed them, they did the tutoring and everything. We loaded them back on the bus to take them home. So it was dark. So we was gonna drop them off individually. But the kids, they ride past their house because they didn't want everybody else to know we knew.
Right.
This is like 11:30 going on 12 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
Bobby
goodness.
Drummond calls me, he said, hey, where you and Perry at? I said, "Man, we trying to drop these kids. Man, we got parents calling them, told me, you guys kidnapped their kids." I said, "Bobby." Man, I was so mad. They actually was calling the police station, said that we kidnapped the kids. Two police officers kidnapped a
busload of children.
That was
Wow.
But the kids still remember that today, and these kids are like 50 years old.
Yeah, you
And
don't
they
forget
come
that
up
kind
to
of
you,
stuff.
And matter of fact, I got one. He's a policeman with the school board.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of them. We got
So you did make a difference, huh? Yeah, I know you all were supposed to. Well, let me not say supposed to. You all were going to invite some of the young men to come, and that's okay that they're not here, but I just wanted to put it out there, and we're going to talk about the program, but I just wanted to put it out there that the program did have a lot of success stories. Before we get to Shoe Basket Now Brothers, you were at the alternative school. I think they called you the sheriff.
20 years.
For 20 years at an alternative school. And for those of you who do not know what an alternative school is, ask someone, they'll tell you. Talking about the bad kids. It was the children that had disciplinary problems that were removed from their home schools. And they were all in one school. And there was one officer on the campus.
Best time of my life.
Best time of your life.
Yeah.
I know, I have been over there several times when you were over there, and they say, you looking for the sheriff? You looking for the sheriff? But they respected you, and I respect you for doing that. Most people who are assigned to a school like that don't want to be assigned there, one. And they definitely would not stay there for 20 years, so.
I mean, I look at it now, I'm celebrating this year. I've been a school resource officer since 1990.
Wow.
We went into
and you're still working in a school now.
But I'm with my babies. I'm with elementary. It's a bump.
Right. You got to know when to hold them, what Kenny Rogers say.
There will come a time.
And the reality of it, you know, when they start taking some of the programs away, and I did the DARE program for several years, and a lot of times when I didn't have classes, I wound up at his school, you know, helping him out. And then we networked together.
Right.
That kind of drove us toward the program we get ready to talk about.
Well, let me ask y'all this, and then we're going to move into it. Do you feel like programs are necessary in schools?
This is my take. And everybody in Jacksonville know to probably have a crime. And I'm going to tell you, the last time we met, when they was doing away with the program, and they called us all, and we sat at the round table and talked. And he told me, he told us, he says, "Do y'all have anything else to say before we leave?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Chief, you can pay me now, or you can pay me later." And basically what I was saying, if you take the programs away now, later, which is now, you're gonna pay. That's why we got high rate of juvenile crime now. They took programs like their program, also friendly program, shoot baskets. They took those programs and took them out. It was all about finance, money. Everything is money.
Yeah, and it still is today.
Yeah, it is.
It still is today.
My take on that too is, he's right, but everything's about the moment. That was our moment. Could we do the same thing what we done in 1990?
No.
In 2024? Different kids.
Right.
Different type crimes.
Right.
Different mentality.
Right.
Different type drugs. I don't think how we showed that kind of caring back in the 90s, I don't think it'll work today. The way their attitudes are.
Right.
They still have respect for us.
Right.
They still wouldn't use profanity around us. These kids today,
Yeah,
they talk to you using profanity.
that's right.
Even though they were kids, challenged kids, they didn't disrespect us. I mean, not just outright using profanity, but
There was some respect for authority and the law.
Right.
Then.
Well, maybe we'll move with the time too, but at our age, I know we couldn't do it.
I was gonna say it might have had something to do with y'all being 7 feet tall and
and we played basketball with them.
Right.
And beat them. They couldn't understand that.
Yeah.
Because they thought we were that ancient.
Right.
Yeah, we police with
We couldn't play.
They had to
Jared was
respect
a great
that.
shooter, And I would say, I bet y'all can beat him shooting. Like, when I shoot him.
Yeah, he banged up underneath the
Yeah.
he banged up under the boards.
He used to come, we used to work, basketball games, we worked basketball. Well, Jerry would come over there during the halftime, and he in his uniform, and he's stroking it. He's stroking it. Kids didn't think you could
Undivided
play ball.
attention, right?
Let's think about when they showed Shaquille O'Neal with the officers, Thomas Carr.
Yep.
We were doing that in the 80s.
Yes, you
Just
were.
didn't have a telephone. And
That's right.
That stuff
You
was
were.
going on. We didn't look for people to come
Right.
do it.
I think it was way before our time. I mean,
Yeah.
way before our time.
Yeah.
Way before, yeah. We were doing that then.
And this was just reflexes.
Yeah.
You know, just I saw a need for it and we did it.
Some Jacksonville police officers are going the extra mile when it comes to kids in our area.
Officers are using Common Ground, the game of basketball, to help promote a relationship with neighborhood kids. Eyewitness News reporter Joyce Morgan has that story.
It's a day of fun for community kids as the 4th year for the Shoot Baskets Not Brothers program comes to a close. The Youth Intervention Program is sponsored by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and focuses on police officers interacting with youngsters.
Every year, working with these kids, trying to help them to develop discipline, self-esteem, raise their self-esteem, teaching them life management skills, how to look for a job, the importance of staying in school.
All summer long, students like 17-year-old Anthony Kirkland have combined fun with practical lessons. Kirkland says he was led to the program because of family problems.
The reason why that I really wanted to stay in the program, it wasn't because of the trips and everything. It was because that I didn't know how to get along with people, you know. And I think if I can get along with, you know, my peers, I can also get along with my mother.
This end of the summer picnic allows all the neighborhood kids to rub elbows with police officers. And this is when the annual round ball matchup takes place between the youngsters and officers. But basketball is just one mechanism used to help these kids.
This is not about athletics, it's not about basketball, it's about discipline and teaching these kids to feel good about themselves.
I like it because it keeps you off the street and you know a lot of people that come in each year and you go a lot of places.
There you go. And she saw.
There's a lot of pride associated with this event, both for the police officers and for the kids who are learning lessons of life. Joyce Morgan, Channel 4.
Well, I think it was brilliant to come up with, at that time, something that the children were interested in, something that they enjoyed doing, and something that would capture their attention long enough for you to not only participate in a sport with them, but impart some of this other stuff that you all did. So, Shoot Baskets Not Brothers was the name of the program, and I know we're going to talk to Sherry Shaw later on about her role in this. But just tell me, what was the crux of the program?
Now, here's the real deal. This is where we had juvenile crime. And being from Philadelphia, I know the mentality of gangs. You know, you got a group of kids, they may not call themselves a gang, but you get a pack of kids just fighting each other, shooting at each other.
Right.
That's a gang, that's gang activity. The sheriff then don't use the word gang. We don't want to alarm the people in Jacksonville that we have a gang problem. But we do have a gang problem. But when we would do talks, we said, well, we got a youth group. So once crack cocaine came in, a lot of that stuff escalated. You know, kids start selling drugs on the corner. They can make a quick dollar. They didn't have to go to school or went to school and was acting like fools. So he started a lot of that stuff. And basically where it started was between Flag Street apartments and 26th Street. That was one of the known problems. But there were some other area hotspots that we later, picked up on. And these kids went to James Weldon.
Now, they all went to the same school.
They went to the same school. And
First.
Right, at first.
Okay.
And that was James Weldon. And they go to school, they terrorized the school. Well, Sherry Smith was the SRO at the school at the time. That's when the SRO program kicked in, right after crack cocaine. It was around that time, about right at the 90s. And they start putting officers in the school saying, well, we got these problems with these kids. We're going to put officers in the school to deal with some of the problems in school. So that's where Perry and them got to be SROs and stuff. So Sherry had a school over there, James Weldon. And she had these two groups in there wreaking havoc, fighting, stabbing. And she worked real close with these kids. And A lot of them, I remember one kid, she always talk about Bernard, you know, they fight, and they looked at her as a mother figure. Because she would look out for them, she'd do stuff for them. And it was getting out of control. And Sherry knew our background and everything, so she said that she wanted to have a meeting with these kids and see if we could do something with them. So I'll never forget the first meeting I went with these guys. We had about 40 of them in the auditorium. Had a group on this side, and a group on that side. You could cut the friction with a knife. The language they was using at each other, and they back and forth and back and forth. And I'll never forget Rob Sweetie, who was the news anchor guy at the time. He was my neighbor. He came and said, and he was a key player in getting a lot of that stuff started with the news media. And, you know, we sat there and started talking to guys and tried to say, well, listen, guys, what is it y'all want to do? You know, we didn't come here to tell you what to do. Most programs, they tell kids what they want. We want you to do this, do that. Nobody ever takes the time to say, what do you want to do? How do you feel? What do you want to do? We open up that forum. And most kids say, well, if we had jobs, we wouldn't have that problem. Okay, you need jobs. So me, Perry, and some of the other officers went out. We got applications, which was really shocking. So I think the first couple of meetings we had, we brought blank applications. That's when you could get an application on paper from the little champ and fill it out. So I remember one of the classes we had, first class we had about job preparedness. We gave us a fill it out. You'd be amazed that these were school kids. They didn't know how to spell their name. Didn't know how the address. Didn't know the parents' name. Half of them didn't know anything.
And he hopes he can impress upon these teenagers the importance of good work habits.
I think the most important benefits I have received from this program is job skills. Learning how to fill out an application, learning how to fill out a data sheet, taking a data sheet with you, what to wear, how to act.
It teaches them more stuff in school because it teaches like to be responsible and how to talk in front of a lot of people.
You ready? Yeah. All right.
The Career Seminar is just one part of the Shoot Baskets, Not Brothers program. In its third year, it gives youngsters a chance to participate during the summer in sports like basketball. They also spend time at camp each year. Plus, they are taught violence prevention, conflict resolution, and how to handle peer pressure. It's all an effort to cut down on the number of young African-American males who end up dead or in jail. 50 children were officially signed up for the program this summer when it began in June. But volunteers say sometimes as many as 100 showed up for different events.
Basically to give the kids something to do during the summer. If they're not in summer school or working, then a lot of them hang around on the streets, so we try to fill that void for them.
I would like to see it change a lot of kids' lives and stop most of this violence that's going on in Jacksonville and around America.
Some didn't have fathers. Majority of them didn't have fathers. And I think me and this guy here, Perry, we were like father figures too.
Of course.
But we talked to him in real time. Sherry's approach was mother figure. When we got involved with this, it was like, you know, we can't take that soft approach. You got to do some tough love with these kids. You know, they tell them how it is.
Well, I think the kids always need that balance. And I think too much of one and not enough of the other is a recipe for disaster. But when you can get it right, you can really see some changes, and you'll see the kids you'll see yourself starting to make a difference with the kids. What were some of the, other than, I know he just talked about the applications and all of that kind of stuff. What were some of the other things that y'all did with them?
We talked about hygiene, how to dress, got them haircuts. Well, I think you came about when they started getting haircuts. What to say on an interview. I mean, we were doing those, and then we started bringing people in, professionals, to tell them how to do it.
Right.
And then the best thing we done was the basketball. I think we got to say the competition. You know, bring out the best of any man or boy. And when they start playing ball and football, I mean, we try to keep it active, so they can play sports and get rid of that energy.
Right.
You know.
And actually, Shoot Basket's my brother. That's how we got that name.
Right.
After we met him. Right. So I remember talking to these guys and saying, hey guys, listen, you guys shooting and fighting and killing each other. Let's shoot baskets. Let's have a basketball game.
That's when it came about.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. That's a tagline. I mean, that's one that will capture
well, you know, in reality,
the attention.
Sherry Smith, she lit the match.
She was the mother.
She lit the match. We came in and we kind of, I guess, put it a little more organized, put a little more structure to it, and start doing some program stuff. But she was doing a lot of that stuff on her own before we got involved with that.
Splattered and speckled, this is what you get when you put more than 30 teenagers and gallons of green and white paint together. But you also get to teach teamwork and the importance of helping others. At-risk kids from all sides of the city made up the volunteer crew to give this home on Myrtle Street a makeover.
We have kids that was with us the last couple of years. They're gainfully employed, their grades are up, and they're doing a lot of positive things. And I think it's a direct result of what we're doing with them during the 9 weeks that we have them.
The thankful homeowners watched all the hard work from their front porch.
Tells me a story about togetherness, working together. You know, the group of men you got here, and fellows says a lot about unity and community.
To learn them how to get out the streets and quit swiping things don't belong to them. All that's a good idea to put them to doing something.
Some of the guys here were recommended for the program by school resource officers, others as part of a court order. Organizers say every summer they see some amazing changes that could help these kids stay out of trouble. A court order sent Sherman Williams here. Last month he was arrested for firing a gun. He says this is a way to redeem himself.
I did wrong, but I can also do good too. Because, you know, you mess up once don't mean that your whole life, you know, is going the wrong way.
Let's go, break over, let's go. Let's go, Governor.
All this summer, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, these teens are learning more than just job skills, but how to work together and resolve conflicts without violence. Positive interaction to last a lifetime. Eric Dodd, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
So initially there was no funding.
Zero. Let me tell you, this is funny, and I hope I don't get nobody fired.
Matter of fact, you owe me $50.
From back then,
I hope I don't get nobody fired. But we had these kids, right? And this was at Butler. And they all sitting around, we talking to them, and I think Bob Hayes used to come by all the time. What's Bob, and what's the other guys that play football?
Yeah, Al Denson.
Yeah, they were the regulars. A lot of praise for these guys. Wow. But we sitting around, we talking to them, and laughing, talking. Hey, I'm superior, brother, tell me. What we gonna eat? Y'all got something for us to eat? They said, oh man, let me see what I can do. This guy, get this police car. Now, by the way, this lady fired. She probably retired.
She retired. Bless her heart. We need to give her a shout out.
And this is no joke.
Glory.
You can check. He would go up there on Kings Road. It was Popeye.
Yeah.
Popeye's chicken. And he come back, backseat full of chicken.
Wow,
biscuits,
for the children.
Drinks and everything. So give it to us. I don't know how
Anytime we needed that.
Wow.
She hired some of the boys to work up there.
So this, in my mind, represents the true meaning of community policing.
Right, exactly.
Then this was long before community policing became a phrase or a thing, or somebody was told that they had to do community policing. You all were already doing it.
Right.
You literally were drawing in the rest of the community to help with these children.
The thing about that, Jay, Joe Henry, and I told you earlier, Joe was like a big brother to us. He was our chief of police. Joe pushed us. He said, "Hey, he didn't hassle us about being out there driving the kids in cars. We got complained on several times, taking the kids to the movie. 10 police cars with a bunch of kids stacked up. Going to the movies.
That's right.
We made a deal with AMC out at Regis.
That's right.
They could go to the movies for free.
We got that free.
Got it free. Mr. Ledbetter. Never forget the guy. And Joe gave us his blessing. Joe Henry gave us, guys, what you're doing is great. But the thing is, we was doing all that, and we was sometimes working extra jobs. We was coming out of our pocket, and the chicken was going.
But I hear what you're saying, and I understand and know what you're saying, because almost anybody that's been an SRO you probably into the millions by now. If you've been an SRO, you've bought lunches, you've provided snacks, you've paid for uniforms. Yeah, you bought gifts. Yeah. If you've been an SRO, especially in an inner city school, you've come out of your pocket. There's just no way around it. You may go into that school saying, I'm not doing all of that. But when you look in the faces of those children, and sometimes the parents too, that have a need, you have to help.
But in reality, I don't think, once me and Perry hooked up, we didn't have that mindset. We said, it's a challenge at the school. Let's deal with it.
Yeah, we wouldn't think about that.
Let's deal with it. Miss Hodge, she was trying to get a program up. Hey, she got two big
team up. That's Miss Hodge.
Miss Hodge, exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's Mrs. Hodge.
Okay, I love Team Up.
They just gave it another name.
They just gave it another name.
Yeah.
That was Mrs. Hodge's concept.
But when we had a challenge, because once the program got off the ground, we still was doing our thing. We migrated over to Hollybrook.
That's right.
Talked to the kids in Hollybrook.
That became the number one.
Flag Street.
Yeah, that's where I really remember it from, Hollybrook.
Hollybrook, we used a lot of kids from Flag Street.
And Mr. G helped us out with
Reverend G.
Holly would have cookouts for them. They really would help us.
Mr. G pretty much gave us the green light. Whatever y'all want to do, you can use the complex.
Right.
Wow.
We had a huge cookout.
Right.
So that's somebody that cares about their community.
Right.
Not just a manager, put in and out,
Right.
but that's somebody that really cares about the community. Because if you're from here, you know that back in the 90s, there were some hot spots. And as soon as you call the name, or if you were a police officer, you heard the address, 104 King Street, 1214 LaBelle Street.
Right.
You knew where those hot spots were. And for you to go in there, even though you had a badge and a gun, for you to go in there without anybody sending you in there with your own money on your own time to work with these children, that's amazing.
Well, here's the deal. And those places you named, when we would go in there, they respected us. I rode Pottsburg. I get out my car in Pottsburg. That's one of the hottest drug holes in Jacksonville at one point. Yeah, Pottsburg and Caravan Trail.
Yep.
Shootings all the time. I get out my car and walk. But the people knew I was straightforward.
They won't knock your car with it.
And I'm not dogging you out. And they would stop and talk, the people that lived there. But it was just like a group of us, a handful of police officers. Not just me and Perry, there was other people involved, with the program. Antonio Richardson. I tried to call him today. He's Reverend Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
And Anthony Rogers.
Yeah.
Tony Rogers was a key factor.
Great spicer. Great spicer.
Yep.
Then, when y'all came, you, Sabrina, Joanne Hay.
Well, that's when they started bringing girls in. And well, at first they did, but then later on they brought girls in.
Yeah.
And boy, having to try to work with those girls was something else.
I left.
But you're right, though. They even if they came in at that point, even if they came in and they really didn't have a healthy respect for you as a law enforcement officer within the first week, 7 to 10 days, they had that respect. And so you were able to kind of guide them. I still have them now that contact me and that are on my social media and everything that were in those programs back then.
We even took them on a college tour.
Yep.
Florida State, Florida A&M, Morehouse. When we took them to Atlanta. Yeah.
So at some point, it caught on. Because we have some articles here that were written in the news. And speaking of Spicer, look at Spicer when he was younger. Speaking of Spicer, but so it caught on, and the media began to talk about it and celebrate. There's Tommy Tyson here on this one, talking about shooting baskets with the children. That's another nice one. But so at some point you had to get the attention of the powers that be at the sheriff's office, and they begin to kind of financially assist you a little bit.
We were doing this stuff, and I remember Jim McMillan, who was our sheriff at the time. Nat Glover was the deputy director at the time. And Nat Glover, everybody knows Nat was African American. Well, they went to some type of symposium up in Washington, D.C., where they had a bunch of police officers, sheriffs, like a sheriff conference. But the deal was, each sheriff had to do a presentation every day, what they were doing to address juvenile crime in their cities. Never forget it. They went up, and that day was coming up soon. Apparently, when they got up there, they didn't have nothing. Because they kept saying we didn't have a gang problem. We didn't have no youth group problem. Youth groups. So I never forget. So Wednesday or something like that. Chief Henry, Joe Henry called me and said, Jerry, let me talk to you. But then he said, what you and Perry and them doing over there? Are y'all documenting any of that stuff? Are y'all keeping track of any of that stuff? I said, no, we just go over there, talk to the kids, and hang out with them, that's all. He said, listen, the sheriff got to do it. They got to do a presentation in a couple of days to these bunch of sheriffs. I need y'all to sit down and put together a proposal, what the goals and objectives and how y'all come about all this stuff. That's when it changed. That's when it changed. We came down, and never forget, Stephanie Walker. We worked the whole week, and she did the right and the type. Wow. She could do that. We was just telling them what we were doing. And we worked, Joe said, come on down, I'll pay you overtime.
This before she became a bully. Yeah. She just got out of high school or college.
And we wrote it up. So then we had to get Jim McMillan Jr., who was an artist, great artist.
He was a really good artist.
That's his logo. He put together that logo. We sat down and he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, get the shield. But we talked about shooting baskets. He said, well, I put 2 hands on it. And he put the 2 hands shooting baskets. That's just so two different. So it has some concept.
Yeah, right.
Jim McMillan Jr. put that together.
And there is the goals and objective outline right there.
We worked all that weekend on that. And we overnighted it to Glover and them. And as a result, they did the presentation as to what they were doing to address crime, juvenile crime in Jacksonville. And as a result of their presentation, Catalyst, this is a sheriff's office, magazine type thing, Catalyst, and it's nationwide. The sheriffs get together with certain things. And they featured Shoot Baskets, Not Brothers, in that program. Wow. And after they featured this, and I've got the letters, other agencies were calling us. I got the letters.
Yeah.
They would call us and say,
what are you doing?
What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing different than we're not doing? How did y'all go about doing that? And we got to respond. So initially, we didn't have any money. We were spending money. And Chief Henry said, get with Pat McCullough and Jim. They sat up there and they wrote a grant. And the grant got approved. It's called PAVE, Providing Alternatives for Violent Encounters. They gave us a piece of that grant to finance for the summer. That's how we started getting the funding. Then we had some private people coming in with like that. And then after we did that for a couple of years, then I think the sheriff just started, he put it in his budget.
Right, put it in his budget.
That's how we got to the point where we can finance.
So I know that you all had a lot of kids that were in the program, and you watched a lot of them make the decision to go from doing the wrong thing to do the right thing. So can you all remember some of the instances or some of the students that you impacted? Because I know there were a lot.
Well, you go here. Well, the first one comes to mind is Lito Shepard and his cousin Terrell. They were two of the first guys that was there because they lived in the neighborhood. They were neighborhood kids.
And they made it work.
Yeah, and they came just as much as everybody else. And they had good grandparents and parents, good family structure. Right. But they lived in this area, and they would come. Well, they did good. Lito wound up going to UF, played football.
Yeah.
And proud moment for me, probably the same thing you was getting ready to say. He signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think his signing bonus was $5 million signing bonus guaranteed. 2-time Pro Bowl. And we still keep in touch.
Yeah, y'all got to be proud of that one.
Oh, yeah. It's a marquee guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the proud moment with Lito was Super Bowl. Played here. My assignment was on the visiting team. I'm standing out there in my position. And here come a guy, Philadelphia.
Yeah, and who gave you that position on the what they call it, the sideline? Yeah. Who gave you that position?
I don't know. I was there. But here comes this Philadelphia Eagle guy, number 6, running 26, running to me to give me a hug.
Wow! Oh my goodness!
Man, I had tears, man.
I know you did. I know you.
And people taking pictures.
Oh my goodness!
I'll tell you what, when he had the shirt came out. Matter of fact, I still got it. His football shirt.
Yeah. His jersey, yeah.
I had it on one day. I was going to visit my mom. She was in nursing home several years ago. I stopped at the Shell station on Lim Turner and Dillon. Went in. Apparently he had just walked out. But I walked in. I didn't see him. And I'm standing at the counter trying to pay for my stuff. All of a sudden, somebody grabbed me from behind, scared me.
He saw
I
you.
said, I don't know if somebody put in jail before.
Right.
He wouldn't let me go. And he started laughing. He said, man, you know, I was driving away, and I looked around. I saw somebody come walking with a shepherd shirt on. I had to see
come back and see who it was.
He came back, and it was you. That's the type
Man,
of person
that is one of the best
priceless
feelings that you can have when you see the fruits of your labor.
That's priceless.
So you see the impact that you have made on a young person. Yeah, that's amazing.
Gary Collier, he works for Sheriff's Department. Yeah. They were doing an investigation when I was working at the courthouse, and he came and looked at some of the video.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in there. I remember, you know, he had freckles and stuff, a little brown skin kid. I'm in there with Chief and the Chief Judge and everybody. We looking at the thing. He's trying to get footage to look at the video. And we sitting there talking, and I'm standing there, and he says, Officer Thomas. I said, yeah. I looked around. He said, yeah. Then I remember the freckles.
That face there,
And he said in front of the people that, my supervisor, he said, let me tell you something about this guy, him and Officer Perry. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. He said, those guys meant a lot to me. Man, I got goosebumps. I started tearing up.
Yeah,
you got a young officer.
Yes.
I'm ready to retire. And I got this young kid just coming on the department giving me that kind of praise, giving us that kind of praise. Man, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it really does. It is absolutely priceless. And what you all did in the program is just immeasurable. We need more programs like that today for our children. But I understand, as you said, times have changed. The mindset of the children have changed. Even the parents and their mindsets have changed. I understand that, but we need.
Well, I think the officers down in school, it's more of a one-on-one saving.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that.
Yeah, right.
But you still can pull a kid
right
to a
Oh, absolutely.
man or woman. If
you absolutely.
You do it one at a time.
So again, I wanted to say thank you all for being with us today. I want to thank you for what you did for the children through this program. I want to thank you on behalf of the parents, who I'm sure appreciated you taking the time out with their children. I want to thank you on behalf of the community. Words just cannot express how grateful we are.
Governor Jacksonville has our next question.
I'm Officer Jerry Thomas from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. Governor, I would like to know what has been your administration's views or policies on crime and violence in the black communities of your state? And if elected, what would your administration do to assist the state and local government address these problems?
The Shoe Baskets Not Brothers program, which began in the 1990s, later became the Sheriff's Office Summer Youth Intervention Program and lasted until 2009. We want to take the time to recognize and thank each and every one of the officers who worked with the young people for both programs. Officer Kendall Anderson, Officer Irvin Bartley, Officer Vanessa Bass Williams, Officer Ronnie Bennett, Officer Dale Brannon, Officer Alvin Brooks, Officer Ferrando Brooks, Officer Leon Brown, deceased Officer Marguerite Bryant, Officer Sean Bird, Officer Ronald Caldwell, Officer Fred Calby, Officer Ben Carroll, deceased Officer Denise Kaufman, Officer Sabrina Connor Parrish, Officer Delma Craig, deceased Officer Marta Crespo, Officer Joe Crotty, Officer Willie Cummings, Officer J.J. Dixon, Officer Quentin Douglas, Officer Joanna Gamble, Officer Emmett Gooch, Officer Karen Gooding, Officer Darian Green, Officer Dexter Green, Officer Carl Harris, deceased Officer Joanne Hay, Officer Richard Hindley, Officer Gail Hickson, Officer Grover Highsmith, Officer Michael Hodges, Officer Delaney Holloway, Officer Dwayne Howard, Officer Victor Jefferson, Officer Christopher Johnson, Officer Lawrence Johnson, Officer Michael Johnson, deceased, Officer Misty Lederman, Officer Eric Lee, Officer Kim Lockley, Officer Eric Maddox, Officer Dave McCoskas, Officer Phyllis McNeely, deceased Officer Greg McRoy, Officer Corinthian Morgan, Officer Gary Oliveris, Officer Willie Perry, Officer Nancy Pittman, Officer Ronnie Pittman, Officer Deborah Poe, Officer Antonio Richardson, Officer Christopher Robinson, Officer Freddie Robinson, Officer Anthony Rogers, deceased, Officer Sam Rodriguez, Officer Larry Shuford, Officer Roscoe Simmons, deceased Officer Gilbert Gill Smith, Officer George Solomon, Officer John Spencer, Officer Greg Spicer, Officer Jerry Thomas, Officer John Thomas, Officer Latoya Tootin, Officer Craig Walcott, Officer Stephanie Walker, Officer Tom Warham, Officer Jocelyn Wells, Officer Henry Williams, Officer Reggie Williams, Officer Ron Williams, Officer Vidal Williams, Officer Jeff Woods, Officer Vontez Wright, Officer Elliot Van Dyke, Officer Kurt Zamore. Sergeants at that time: Sergeant Mike Berry, Sergeant Derek Boucher, Sergeant Ricky Brown, Sergeant Ellis Burns, Sergeant Greg Burton, Sergeant Bobby Drummond, Sergeant Lily Hotard, Sergeant Ed Johnson, Sergeant Mike Johnson, Sergeant Ferrand Lockett, Sergeant Darren Mann, Sergeant John Mike, Sergeant John Paget, Sergeant Retzer, Sergeant Ray Walden, Sergeant Don Wilfong. Lieutenants at that time: Lieutenant Tony Davis, deceased Lieutenant Jimmy Judge, Lieutenant Joe Medlin. Assistant Chief at that time: Assistant Chief David Kaufman for the Sheriff's Summer Youth Intervention Program. Chief at that time: Chief Joe Henry for the Shoot Baskets Not Brothers Program. Chief David Stevens for the Sheriff's Summer Youth Intervention Program. Special recognition to former Sheriff Jim McMillan for his support of the Shoot Baskets Not Brothers Program. Also special recognition to former Sheriff John Rutherford for his support of the Sheriff's Summer Youth Intervention Program. Again, we want to thank all of those who assisted in working with the young people after school and/or every summer.